You're listening to the International Moving Podcast, your guide to moving to another country, brought to you by SDC International Shipping, LA's finest. An international move is exciting. It's a time to start over, establish a new business maybe, reestablish family ties, or retire where your budget will do more for you. Please enjoy today's episode, and if you have any questions about your international move, give us a call at 888-779-3962. That's 888-779-3962. All right, welcome back, everyone. This is Jim for SDC International Shipping. You are listening to the International Moving Podcast, your guide to living in another country. I'm your host, and it's great to have you here together with me today. We're going to jump into a topic that we're talking, of course, about international moving, but we're going to talk about maybe in a little more detail where people are moving to in 2025, some of the things that are changing here in the United States, and how that has a ripple effect on everything else. Now, of course, people have been moving throughout the world more regularly over the past several years than maybe in the past, except for, I think if you rewind the tape all the way back to the year 2000, I think people were even more mobile back then. Of course, the times changed, the reasons changed, but the ability to relocate is probably easier than ever before because the technology is in place, the logistics have been refined, and the systems have been time tested, where once you have all of your paperwork in order, once you have your living arrangements in order, and think about how much easier it is today than in the past. I mean, you can go online today, you can connect with expat communities online, you can get to know people in your destination area long before you move there. Matter of fact, even if you've never been there before, you can establish some relationships online and have people waiting there for you when you get there. I know a lot of people do that here, even in the United States. When they're moving from state to state, they go on to groups in Facebook and other online groups, and they meet people from all over the world. So it's much easier today than it's been in the past. You can talk to real estate people online. You can get on the phone. You can use Google Maps and really zero in on areas. There's so much information available. And now, if you've never been to our website before, that's something you're going to want to check out if you're thinking about moving internationally. Our main website is at www.sdcinternationalshipping.com. Now, if you don't put the www in, you'll still get there, sdcinternationalshipping.com. And we're used to moving people from anywhere in the United States. We serve all 50 states, and if wherever you're moving from, wherever you're moving to, we'll help you get there, and we'll help you get there with less stress than you may even believe humanly possible. So this is something that we do every day. We have refined our systems. We have the right people with the right skills in place. And for other things that you might need on the side, or maybe even haven't even thought about, once you talk to a relocation specialist, then you'll get all of that information for your particular needs and for your particular move. So moving internationally is one of those things where you want to work with real professionals, certified in doing this type of and providing this type of service, because believe me, if you're working with a fly-by-night company or people that do this as a side hustle, then you're going to be in for, unfortunately, a stressful ride, because there's just too many pieces that have to be in place. We're talking about everything from proper packing and shipping and paperwork, customs, all of that. And SCC handles all of that from A to Z and everything in between. So people are leaving the United States in 2025 due to the high cost of living. I know here in the state of Florida, increasingly, Florida is becoming sort of like California and New York. Maybe not as quickly, but here in the state of Florida, where I'm making this recording, we're facing skyrocketing housing. A lot of people have actually left the state. A lot of insurance companies will no longer insure here due to all of the damage caused by hurricanes. And for those who are here, some of their prices have increased by so much that for people who own their houses outright, it's not even worth buying insurance anymore. It's almost like buying the house twice after so many years. Instead, they're self-insuring. But if you have a mortgage, then you have no option other than to insure your home. And if you can't find an insurance company that will do this, then they will force place insurance on your home, on your residence for you, and the cost can be prohibitive. So much to the point where some people have just basically sold, taken a loss, and have moved out. Now, unless you live here in Florida, that's not the type of information that is generally out there. Generally, people talk about the fact that there's no state insurance, that it's a free state, and that now I'm not talking bad about Florida. I'm just talking about the reality of the situation. So depending where you are in life, if you can't afford to buy a house outright and not have a mortgage, then there's probably other locations in the United States that are a little better. I know a lot of people are moving to Georgia, North Carolina, Tennessee, Texas, of course. And that influx of people comes with its own challenges. But not to focus on that. Taxes, regulations, natural disasters, all of those things have motivated people to leave for quote-unquote greener pastures elsewhere. And so let's take a look at some of the places that people are moving to. So in 2025, Portugal continues to be very high on the rankings for people, Americans and expats from other countries as well, to relocate to. Excuse me. The monthly rents average between 500 euros and 900 euros. And when you couple that with affordable groceries and utilities, the cost of living is considerably lower than it is here in the West if you're living in a major city. So Portugal offers very good health care, a growing digital nomad visa program. So if you work online, that's available to you. Residency options also that can lead to EU citizenship. One of the major benefits that I recently heard somebody talk about in Portugal was something called the Schengen zone. That's SCHEN, Shen, GEN, Schengen zone. And that's a group of European countries that have abolished border controls between them, allowing for passport-free travel in that area. It was established through the Schengen Agreement that was signed back in 1985 in Schengen, Luxembourg. And today this zone includes 29 countries, most of which are EU members. But also it includes non-EU countries like Norway, Switzerland, Iceland, and Liechtenstein. And this is a border-free area, enables over 450 million people to move freely across these member states without undergoing border checks. Temporarily, they put border checks back if there's a problem with migration or security or something like that arises. But otherwise, yeah, you can move freely between these areas. Then we can talk about Spain. I have friends living in Spain, cities like Valencia or Malaga. They have that Mediterranean-style living, good health care, and the cost of living is significantly lower than the equivalent here in the United States. We're talking about U.S. coastal standards. Think about in the terms of 1,000 to 1,500 euros per month for a moderate lifestyle. Now, Australia, it's not cheap to live there, but the income levels are higher. And I guess we could say the same thing about certain areas here in the United States. But Australia is considered to be a clean, developed, English-speaking country that balances opportunity and business with a high quality of life. Costs are rising, as of this recording, in Sydney and Melbourne, but smaller cities still offer growth for younger families at affordable prices. The UK, subscribers to ancestral visas and skilled immigrants gravitate there for stability, education, cultural ties, even amid the post-Brexit cost concerns. And Canada, the same thing. It's laid back. Depending on who you ask and depending on the area, some people say it is very politically stable. They have universal health care. I talk to people from Canada regularly, some that live there still and others that are here in the United States now. And it's very easy to immigrate to Canada. So people from all over the world go there. A matter of fact, people go there who want to come to the United States, and they kind of look at it as a two-step process. First, they come to Canada, and then from Canada to the United States. But places or cities like Ottawa or Halifax, they have affordable options there for living compared to the major metros like a Toronto or a Vancouver. And then we can talk about places like Thailand and Vietnam in Southeast Asia. I was having dinner with friends the other night who, they don't travel anymore, but several years back, a decade ago, their business took them all over the world, including Thailand and Vietnam. And so they were able to absorb the culture there. And they say that the Thailand and Vietnam of today, in 2025, is even much better than it was in 2015. And there's a lot of digital nomads that are attracted there, and living costs under $2,000 to cover things like rent, food, transportation, and low insurance costs. Some people call them insurance burdens. And then, of course, we have here, beneath us here in the U.S., Latin America. We have Mexico, Costa Rica, and Panama. And they're close to the U.S. That's one of the things that is attractive about, let's say, Costa Rica or Panama or Mexico, because if you want to come back, it's not like you're a long way away. And I think psychologically speaking, it's almost like there's a, how can we put it, like a security blanket of sorts being close to the U.S. And Mexico, Costa Rica, Panama, all known for lower costs of living, warm climates, and well-established expat support networks. Monthly budgets of $1,500 to $2,500 are typical in the very popular areas, but you can live in an area with lower costs. I've talked to people who have moved there, and they spend part of the year there and part of the year back here in the United States visiting with family. And some of them are still in their working years, some not, some are retired. But what's interesting is a lot of people that I talk to that move for financial reasons find that they end up spending more than they intended when they move to some of these locations, simply because they're able to get the kind of housing, as far as maybe the size or the luxury, that would have been out of reach here in the U.S. And so what originally was going to be a more cost-effective living is kind of like basically the same as it was here, but the standard of living is a little bit higher because their money goes further. And then there's the people that are in the retirement part of their life and they're saving the money. Saving is just as important as anything else. And so they don't need like a larger house. If they don't need a 4,000 square foot house if it's just one or two people. So, all right, let's move on a little bit further. The economic snapshot of what we see today. There are states here in the U.S., the Sun Belt, which are really growing, like Texas, Tennessee, North Carolina, South Carolina, and they're experiencing, as a result, job booms, low taxes, and many are leaving places like California in search of affordability. They're leaving New York. Unfortunately, they're now leaving Florida. And there is a decline in people wanting to be in the traditional metros like a San Francisco or New York. And if you want to be close to these places, of course, you don't have to be in the heart of San Francisco and New York to enjoy the benefits of it, but people are living more on the outside areas of it and then commuting there because it's a little bit cheaper. But still, there's really no getting away from the fact that the increased cost of living, rising costs, all of this are causing long-time residents to leave many of these places, and it's also cutting down on the inflow of migration to these places. Now, when we talk about migration and inflows, people moving from one place to another, think about what we've experienced here in the United States. I know they've experienced it in Europe also, is something called the social safety net. So a lot of countries have a social safety net for their citizens and for non-citizens alike. So, for example, we talked about healthcare, a group of my friends the other night, and one of them was a doctor. And he said to me, Jim, if somebody falls down on the sidewalk, as a doctor, I'm going to help them. And I'll call an ambulance if they need to be taken to the hospital. It doesn't matter if the person is rich or poor. It doesn't make any difference if the person is a citizen or non-citizen, as far as the fact that he took an oath to do no harm and to save people's lives. So, but of course, somebody has to pay for that if the person doesn't have health insurance. So there's people still here in the United States that can't afford what you might call practical health insurance. They just are able to afford the basics. And as a result, a lot of times people, they don't really take good care of themselves, or they don't go for regular checkups. I mean, I don't want to get into the whole health side of things, but you can see why that certain people who are coming from depressed areas would be more inclined to seek areas that have more of a social safety net, because there's things available to them there that they can't get. But unfortunately, when you just think about overall moving, when you have a place, let's take a tropical paradise, and somebody discovers it, and it's rich in resources, beautiful landscapes, cost of living is low, the very thing that brings people there eventually disappears once the population gets beyond a certain point. And so, those are the pros and the cons of just a life, I guess. And when you look at things like lower birth rates, then you might say, well, some of the problems are caused due to overpopulation in certain parts of the world. But even places like China now, they say the birth rates are alarmingly low. Here in the United States, birth rates are low. Other places too, because the cost of healthcare is high. The quality of healthcare maybe is not so great. And what's involved in raising children, a lot of families or a lot of individuals are not doing that now. I mean, we have more women in the workforce that don't want to have children, don't want to have a professional career, and there's reasons for that. There's men who don't want to marry, they don't want to be fathers anymore. And so I think we have more factors that are presenting themselves in ways that are more significant, maybe number-wise, than in the past, that are contributing to a lot of the things that we see today. I say all this because what might be a paradise today will be just another place to live tomorrow. And so you have to look at the big picture of everything. Despite the cost of living, I think there will always be people moving to places like, and unrest, when we might call some civil unrest. There will always be people moving to places like in New York or Los Angeles or London. And why is that? Well, because there's always going to be successful people, business opportunities, artistic, cultural type things that are there that are going to attract people who can afford those things or who makes a living in those areas. Even today, when we have more decentralization than ever before, people still flock to, who are musicians, to Nashville. Why do they do that? Because that's where the musicians go. Now, in the past, they went there because technology required for them to be there. That's where the studios were. That's where the recording was done. And it was kind of those places like Chicago or New York or LA or, in this case, Nashville, were known for certain things. And so if you wanted to make it on the biggest stages in the world in those particular niches, that's where you would go. Of course, today, decentralization means that somebody that has a decent desktop computer, or even you don't even need a full desktop computer anymore, but you know what I'm saying, someone that has a decent home setup can produce high quality, and you just fill in the blank, music, movies, whatever. And they don't have to relocate physically and be in a certain place. Everything has become decentralized in that respect due to technology. But still, there's people that want to be in these places because they still attract the best artists or the best musicians or the best chefs. And so Miami is a great example of this. Miami is one of those culinary destinations like a New York or like a LA or like a Chicago, where people from all over the world come there to eat at certain restaurants. Now, of course, we're not talking about poor people. We're talking about people with some money to spend. And so these places, even though the crime rates may go up, even though the cost of living may go up, there's people that are in a position to be able to afford that and take advantage of all of those things that I just mentioned and other things. So, but when you're in the place where you want to move, when it's time for you to pull the trigger, let me just talk a little bit about SDC International Shipping here. Consulting and planning. Working with a company like SDC, you're going to be working with a professional relocation consultant who will assess your destination's regulations, look at things like timing and logistics. We can be talking about maybe moving to a Portugal or Madrid or London or Sydney or Bangkok, wherever you're talking about. And their expertise in those areas will help you immeasurably. They'll set up everything from the packing and crating of all your materials. That's the thing that stresses people out when you're actually in the moving process. To see all of your belongings being put into boxes, custom crates for certain things to make sure that they're safe and secure for their long journey. Those things upset people because you're in the middle of this sense of like a displacement. Like you're not here, but you're not there yet. You're in transit. And so the fact that you're working with professionals goes a long way to giving you that extended peace of mind. Now, when it comes to the actual move itself, there's reliable freight options. If you need to save a little bit of money and don't have maybe a whole lot of things to bring, your shipment can be consolidated in a groupage consolidation where other people who are going to the same location as you'll share shipping container or containers. There are faster options for air freight. Those are designed to save time. And if you know, there's certain things that you just can't wait on. And so a lot of people do a combination of both, air freight and sea freight. There's customs compliance, which if you don't know what you're doing, that's where most of the stress beside the packing is going to come from. Because we have, for example, local teams in Europe, in Australia, Asia, Latin America, and they know the exact customs procedures. They know what needs to be done in order for everything to be compliant and for you to have the support that you're going to need to go through these processes. And let me tell you, certain countries, Australia comes top of mind, are very strict about what can pass through customs and what cannot, what they're looking for, how things have to be listed, all of that. And so working with a company like SDC International Shipping, we're here to take care of that part for you. So the packing and the crating, the customs and compliance support, all of those things will remove that stress and worry that you would otherwise be carrying on your shoulders and be responsible for. Of course, the most important thing, those things aside, in the process is going to be door-to-door delivery. You want to make sure that your belongings end up where you need them, in your home or in a storage unit or a third-party facility, or a combination of all of these things. And so SDC offers storage solutions, insurance, whether you're between homes or you're awaiting residency approval, in-transit storage, full insurance coverage, all of those things are available to protect your valuables. Now, just so you know, we have several websites now. 3 of them are new. They're only a few months old. And what we did is we developed additional websites to very popular locations. And this makes it very easy for you to get the information about a specific location that, if you came to the SDC International Shipping website, you'll see that we have quite a few articles there. We publish 20-something articles a month. We're regular publishers of information. But if you're moving to the UK, we have a special website just for that. We launched it so that it makes getting information about your UK move easier to get than ever before. That website is movefromusa2uk.com. Again, that is movefromusa2uk.com. That is our special UK website for those who are looking to make that move. Or you can call, we have a number for that site, 888-909-3020. That's 888-909-3020 if you want information about a move to the UK. We also have a Moving to Spain website. It's called movertospain.com. Movertospain.com. Of course, that's us, STC, International Shipping. And the phone number for that site is 844-651-7050. And finally, we have an Australian website called moverstoaustralia.com. And so if you're moving to that part of the world, you want to check that out. And so each site has pages dedicated. Each of our location sites, the UK, Spain, and Australia, has information like the visa information that you'll need. All of the particular information that goes with that state are on those sites. Very easy to find, very clean interface. I think you'll really like them. So if you haven't gone to SDC International Shipping yet, our main website, again, check that out. But even on our location sites, you can get a free estimate. You can talk to somebody live on live chat. All of those things are available. All right, I think that will do it for today's episode. I hope you enjoyed it. Thank you for listening to the International Moving Podcast. Enjoy the rest of your week. Be safe, and until the next time, happy moving.
We hope you enjoyed today's episode. Thanks for listening. Whether you're relocating within the country or moving to the other side of the world, we're here to help from start to finish. Connect with us today at 888-779-3962. That's 888-779-3962.